Hello, today is our last unit of our pre-unit. We're going to be multiplying polynomials and factoring polynomials. So I'll just go ahead and get started. Okay, when we multiply just one term by one term, you're going to multiply the coefficients, which gives me 12, and x cubed times x. When you have like bases, you add the exponents. This problem, 7 times 8 is 56. X squared times x squared is x to the 4th. Okay, now when we multiply 1 by 2 or 3 terms, we're going to distribute. So we're going to get 7x cubed plus 4x. Here, we're going to get 2x to the 6th plus 6x to the 5th minus 4x to the 4th plus 10x cubed. Make sure you don't have any like terms that you can add. You can't combine anything unless they are like, which they are not. So these are our two answers. Okay, 2 terms by 2 terms. We're going to FOIL. A lot of people know it as first, outside, inside, last. Instead of doing first, outsides, insides, last, I just make sure that I multiply everything in one parenthesis by everything in the other. So I'll make sure I multiply x times 3x, which is 3x squared, x times 2, and then I'm going to make sure this negative 4 gets multiplied by both. Negative 12x and negative 8. Now here you can add up these two like terms. So we get 3x squared minus 10x minus 8. Okay, this one, same thing. A times 2a is 2a squared. A times 1 is a. 3 times 2a is 6a. And then 3 times 1 is 3. We get 2a squared plus 7a plus 3. That's it. Now, same thing. That's why I don't like having you memorize FOIL, because here we have 3 terms and 2 terms. So I'm just going to make sure that everything in the first parenthesis gets multiplied by everything in the second. So I'm going to get 3b cubed. Here I'm going to have negative 4b squared. Now I'm going to make sure this gets multiplied by both. 18b squared. Negative 24b. Now I have to make sure negative 7 gets multiplied by both. Negative 21b and 28. Now when I add up my like terms, this is my only cubed, so I'm going to write 3b cubed. I have this for a squared and this for a squared, so I get 14b squared. I'm going to combine these two, so I get negative 45b and then plus 28. That's it. Okay. Next problem, we're going to multiply x times x squared is x cubed. X squared times 2 is 2x squared. Now I'm going to multiply these two. 2x squared, 4x, and then I have x plus 2. Add up your like terms. I think you guys should be pretty good at this stuff. And that's it. There we go. Now, on to the fun part, factoring. This is a review of freshman year. Okay. Oh, wait, never mind. I'm not on factoring yet. I still have to do some more multiplication. Okay, square binomials. You can memorize the pattern, so let me show you what the pattern is. I'm going to take my first term and square it, so x squared. I'm going to take my second term and square it, so I get 9. And my middle term is going to be these two multiplied together times 2. So 3 times x is 3x, times 2 is 6x. And then you're going to keep the sign that's in the middle. So if this, since the original is a minus, this one was a minus, this is a plus, so it's going to be plus, plus. Okay, the other way to do it, instead of memorizing a pattern, is to absolutely do not distribute, but rewrite 4x minus y, and then just go ahead and FOIL it out. You can do that like we just did in the problems, or you can do the pattern. Now this problem, if I were to do the pattern, I have to square both these terms. So 16x squared. I'm going to square both of these terms, so I get y squared. I'm going to multiply 4x times y is 4xy times 2, which is 8xy. Now we're going to have a minus and a plus. Okay? That's it. Now this one, the middle terms are always going to cancel. You can go ahead and FOIL it out, but you will notice every single time the middle terms will cancel. So I'm just going to multiply the first terms together and the last terms together. I'm going to multiply the first terms together and the last terms together. That's it. Okay, now we're going to factor. Now we're going to undo the multiplication. So I kind of have this separated so we can talk about it. This should be a review. In every single factoring problem, whether it's 2 terms, 3 terms, 4 terms, 5 terms, I don't care. You are going to look for a greatest common factor. Okay? That's step 1. If any of these lead with a negative, you want to make sure to factor out that negative. Okay? So this one leads with a negative, and there's a greatest common factor. Between 2 and 8, what can I take out of both? A 2. Between z cubed and z squared, I can take out a z squared. So what are you doing is you're dividing this term by this. I'm left with just z. Now you're going to divide this term by this. You're left with a positive 4. Now, you want to double check, can this be factored any further? And it cannot. This is my final answer. Now here, this one only has a 1, this one has an 8, so no number I can factor out. This one has a u cubed, this one has a u cubed, so I can take out a u cubed. This one has a w to the 4th and a w to the 5th, so a w to the 4th I can take out. Now, notice what happens here. This term divided by this term. Don't tell me that's 0. A lot of people don't write anything and it disappears. What is u cubed w to the 4th divided by u cubed w to the 4th? It's 1. Okay? And then on this one, when I divide this by this, I'm left with 8w. That's it. That's my answer. Okay, now, factoring a trinomial when the lead coefficient is 1 is simple. We say what multiplies to give me a negative 15 and adds to give me a positive 2. You can go through and list everything. Negative 1 and 15, 1 and negative 15, negative 3 and 5, 3 and negative 5. So which one of these is going to add to give me a positive 2? It would be this set. That's what goes in your parentheses. Y minus 3, y plus 5. Finished. Okay? Negative 24. When you get good at this, then you don't need to write them all out. I just think in all the factors in my head, and I'm like, oh, okay, negative 6 and positive 4 multiply to give me negative 24, but add to give me negative 2. So I get s minus 6 and s plus 4. Done. Okay, now, here is how you factored these last year. We're going to do factor a trinomial where a lead coefficient is not 1, it's greater than 1. This is called the AC method. So I'm going to just do 1 or 2 of these, and I'll let you guys try the others on your own. So I'm going to multiply 2 times 3, I get 6. What multiplies to give me 6 and adds to give me negative 7 would be negative 1 and negative 6. Now what you're doing is you're replacing this middle term with your new factors. Doesn't matter the order. So I'm going to 2x squared minus 1x minus 6x. So notice I took these two coefficients and I put them with x because negative 1x minus 6x is negative 7x plus 3. Now you're going to factor by grouping. You're going to cover these two up and you're going to say, what can I factor out of these two? You can factor out an x. So you're left with 2x minus 1. What can you factor out of these two? Now it leads with a negative, so you want to make sure you take a negative 3 out. Then you'd be left with 2x minus 1. You will know if you do something wrong because these parentheses need to be the same. If they're not, you did something wrong. Then you rewrite them. You factor that out, and then you write your remainders. This is my answer. Okay, so let's do another one. 3 times 5 is negative 15. What multiplies to give me negative 15 and adds to give me positive 14? It'd be 15 and negative 1. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this as 15n and negative 1n. Okay, factor by grouping. What can I take out of these two? A 3n. Oops. So I'm left with n plus 5. What can I take out of these two? Now if there's nothing you could take out, you are taking out a 1. In this case, I'm going to take out a negative 1. I need to do that because I said if it leads with a negative, factor out a negative, but also I need the parentheses to be the same. So then my answer is 3n minus 1 and s plus 5. N plus 5, excuse me. Okay, I want you to try the other two problems on your own, and then I will show you the work when you... Okay, here's what you should get when we come back. 4x minus 3, x plus 3. I showed my work. 5y minus 3 and y minus 1. Moving on, this is very simple. All we're going to do is square root each of these. One parenthesis is going to be a minus, one parenthesis is going to be a plus, so we get x minus 10, x plus 10. Here, square root both of these. Now I recognize this because it's subtraction and because they're both perfect squares. So we get 4a minus 9b and then 4a plus 9b. Now, the next two problems, you can do what I did above. You can go ahead and that will work, the AC method. But if you recognize these as perfect squares, you can recognize that this is a perfect square trinomial. So we would get 3x, whatever the middle sign is, minus 2, and 3x minus 2. Or you can write it as 3x minus 2 squared. I will accept either one. If it were in the book, you will see the squared. Okay, this problem. These are perfect squares again. Now, not only are they perfect squares, but if I square root these, I get 2s, and here I get t. So your middle term is 2 times those square roots. So 2s times t times 2 is 4st. So this is 2s plus t squared. That's it. Questions, comments, or concerns? Go ahead, write it on the bottom of the video, and I'll see you tomorrow in class.